Get inspired, not influenced. Hi, we're from Eastlake High School based in Washington State, and our HOSA Emotional Well-Being Challenge topic address different aspects of peer pressure and how it can affect one's mental health. Why we selected this theme is to help make sure younger generations know about the detrimental effects that peer pressure can have on a person's mental health in order for them to limit the influences of it in their future. But to understand the correlations between peer pressure and mental health, you first need to understand what each is individually. Peer pressure is the process in which members of a social circle influence theer peers into doing activities that they may initially be hesitant to take part in. This term is usually used in relation to when talking about activities that are not seen as acceptable. Mental health is a person's condition with regard to their psychological and emotional well-being. This can affect their behavior, mood, and the way they process information. When friends or peers influence you to participate in activities or behaviors that go against your values or make you uncomfortable in general, it can lead to one facing stress, anxiety, and internal conflict. The desire to fit in or gain social acceptance may override personal well-being. To reiterate how crucial of a problem peer pressure is, the statistics surrounding the issue show the undeniable effect that it has on adolescents. Studies show that 85% of high schoolers have felt peer pressure at some point. 90% of kids have allowed peer pressure to influence their decision making. 70% of teen smokers initially started because of peer pressure. 33% of teen boys have felt pressure to participate in sexual activity of some type. 62% of teenagers abuse alcohol by the time they have reached the 12th grade, and the death rate for teen drivers rises by 44% while another teenager is inside the car. This shows that peer pressure is very real and a topic that needs to be addressed in order to help educate people on how to prevent it and stop themselves from becoming one of the statistics. There are two main types of peer pressure: spoken or direct peer pressure and unspoken or indirect peer pressure. Spoken or direct peer pressure is when an individual or group verbally asks or suggests a person to participate in a certain type of behavior or activity. If this takes place in a group setting, this can add to a stronger amount of pressure being felt as there is more power in numbers. Unspoken or indirect peer pressure is when an individual is exposed to certain behaviors, trends, or choices of others that lead them to feeling pressured to conform.
Peer pressure can occur in multiple environments. The first environment it can occur in is in the home environment. Now, this is through academic expectations, family values, gender roles, religious and cultural practices. A second environment this can occur in is through school. This is through academic pressure, social behavior, appearance and fashion, substance abuse, and decision making. A third environment is work. This can occur through work life balance, workplace culture, working hours and overtime, pressures to meet expectations, appearance and fashion, and social behavior. The next environment is social events. Through social events, this can occur through alcohol, substance abuse, fashion and appearance, group dynamics, social pressure, and participation in games and activities. The final one is through social media. Now, this can occur through follower account, trends and challenges, body standards, and online validation. We can understand the effects of peer pressure through common symptoms and warning signs. For signs you're being peer pressured, this can be through difficulty expressing your own opinions. This can be when you struggle to express your own opinions and preferences when they differ from one of your peers. Another one is expressing guilt or regret. These feelings can stem after participating in games or activities you may have not wanted to participate in the first place. Another one is ignoring your own personal boundaries. Compromising your personal boundaries or values to fit in a social group is an example of this. The final one is avoiding conflict. Going along with someone to avoid conflict and confrontation with your peers is an example of avoiding conflict. For signs others are being peer pressured, this can be through sudden behavior change. Notable shifts in behavior, adopting new habits, or engaging in out of character activities is an example of someone being peer pressured. Another one is if you notice with them withdrawing from previous activities they previously enjoyed. Now, this can be withdraw from their usual social circles, isolating themselves due to discomfort and conflict. Another one is changes in appearance and style. Drastic and sudden changes in appearance and styles from others that seem to align with their preferences of a group is an example of signs others are being peer pressured. Now, the final one is engaging in risky behaviors. Participation in risky or dangerous activities from others that go against their usual behavior is an example of them being peer pressured. Now, how is this important to our audience? Our audience is mostly middle schoolers and incoming freshmen, and as adolescents continued to use social media at younger ages, the rise of social media can increase the dangers of peer pressure through apps like TikTok, Instagram, and Snapchat. These can include examples of influencers promoting impossible body and beauty standards as well as substance abuse. The next one is their social and emotional well-being. Effects of peer pressure can cause damages to their social and emotional well-being that could lead to many disorders like eating disorders, anxiety, depression, and friendship and friend group dynamics. The last one is their safety. Conforming to peer pressure makes them more vulnerable to dangerous situations that involve partying, drinking, smoking, or driving under the influence.
Our goal is to inform future generations on healthy ways to limit the influence of peer pressure so that they can gain control over situations they're being put through when peer pressure is presented to them. Throughout high school and the entirety of adolescence, our audience will get to experience peer pressure and situations that these teenagers might have never faced before. So, instructing and informing about this topic along with a variety of actions that these teens could rely on when dealing with this can be a guidance. Our presentation involved a content overview that expands on what peer pressure is, the different types of peer pressure, the importance of this topic on audiences' lives, places peer pressure can be encountered, and ways to deal with it. After presenting, we wanted to use some of our time to create skits with some of these students so that they can show us their understanding of peer pressure and use the content that they learned through our presentations. Before starting our presentation, we made sure to gain data on the students' knowledge about peer pressure by utilizing a pre-evaluation survey. Similarly, we also had the students fill out a post-evaluation form after our presentation that we would compare to the pre-evaluation form to observe any improvement in their understanding of peer pressure. This showed our team what kind of an impact this presentation left on the students and how they're going to handle peer pressure in the future. Here's a video of what our pre-evaluation survey looked like. We included questions such as how confident are you in identifying different types of peer pressure on a scale of 1 to 10, how effective do you feel your communication skills are in navigating peer pressure situations, and more. Here you can see our presentation slides and the content we shared. We discussed important statistics, types, and representations of peer pressure, signs that you are being pressured and signs where others are being peer pressured, and how to minimize effects of peer pressure.
To start off our activity, we split the class into groups of 4. Next, we had each one of us lead one of the groups of 4 and had the students create a skit incorporating parts of the presentation. They did this by acting out a situation where they displayed an example of peer pressure and then how to prevent it. Then we had each group present their skits to the rest of the class. An example of this is when we had a group at Evergreen Middle School's 7th grade class act out a situation for peer pressure in teenage drinking. Most of the students in the group pressured one student into drinking using spoken/direct peer pressure at a social event. The student being peer pressured detected signs that they were being peer pressured and then used the strategies to minimize peer pressure mentioned in our presentation in order to refuse the drink and set boundaries. Here's a video of what our post-evaluation survey looked like. We included questions such as moving forward, how likely are you to use at least one of the things you learned in this presentation in your own life? And rate your self-confidence in resisting peer pressure on a scale of 1 to 10, and more. These questions helped us determine whether our presentation had an impact on students and their knowledge on how to identify and resist peer pressure. As stated before, we measured this data by comparing the data from the pre-evaluation survey to the post-evaluation survey. Fortunately, our presentation did have a positive impact throughout the 3 middle schools we attended, as there was a noticed positive increase when comparing our pre and post data. For example, for the question on a scale of 1 to 10, how effective do you feel your communication skills are in navigating peer pressure situations? The average pre-survey score was 5.9 out of 10, whereas the post-survey score was 8.6 out of 10. We also received positive feedback from multiple students. For example, Caitlin D. said, "Thank you for presenting for us today. I appreciated it. I will use your information in high school." Nethra said, "No," when answering if she had any questions, "but I really like your PowerPoint and it was fun and a change from the routine." And Julia Z said, "Thank you for coming in and I enjoyed how in-depth this was. I learned a lot." As you can see, our presentation had a positive impact on the students. As a group of young women currently in high school, we find peer pressure highly relevant in today's society. We have all experienced the influence of influencers on social media and the normalization of underage substance consumption, unrealistic body standards, constant academic pressure and expectations, materialism, and hookup culture among our peers. As a new generation emerges, we aim to raise awareness about the toxicity of peer pressure and its detrimental effects on teenagers' mental health. Nowadays, we see so many of our peers becoming victims to underage drinking just because others say it's cool and the right thing to do. On social media, we see young celebrities and influencers drink alcohol all the time, and it has become a norm for their audience of younger people to follow in their footsteps. We hear about our peers engaging in sexual activities only because others around them have made it normal and not normal to not engage in sexual activities. We hear about our girlfriends only engaging in sex because their boyfriends pressured them to and their friends made fun of them for not doing it already. All these actions have really negative impacts on a person's well-being. The four of us have also grown up in a society where it is normal to push unrealistic standards on girls. We've grown up watching girls start putting on makeup or wearing inappropriate clothing from a very young age, just because their favorite celebrity said only makeup and revealing clothes make you pretty. I remember when I was in 7th grade, I would put on makeup and wear crop tops to school only because girls around me would wear makeup and wear crop tops all the time and they would pressure me into doing it as well. I hated wearing makeup back then and it made me really uncomfortable to wear revealing clothing, but I did it anyways to fit in, but at the cost of my mental well-being. Most girls have similar stories when it comes to peer pressure because unfortunately that's what the culture is and has been, but that needs to end. As an older sister, I don't ever want my sister to grow up being peer pressured the same way me and my team members were, because we have all suffered the negative impacts of peer pressure on our mental health. All of this is why, when deciding a theme for the project, we knew we had to focus on peer pressure and its effects on young people's mental health. We are grateful to have gotten the opportunity to educate middle schoolers and incoming high schoolers on this topic so that they are better equipped to handle situations where they're being peer pressured so that they can have a healthy mental well-being. As a future registered nurse planning on specializing in pediatrics, I need to be aware of peer pressure and its effects on young people's mental health, because nurses can provide education and resources to young people and their families about the impact of peer pressure on mental health. This may include teaching coping skills, stress management techniques, and other strategies for building self-esteem and resilience. Also, nurses play a key role in conducting mental health screenings and assessments. Understanding the impact of peer pressure helps nurses ask relevant questions and identify potential risk factors more effectively. Ariana plans on becoming a cardiologist, and peer pressure influences behaviors such as smoking, substance abuse, and unhealthy eating habits. These behaviors are significant risk factors for cardiovascular diseases, and by addressing the underlying psychological pressures, cardiologists can better support patients in making healthier lifestyle choices. Lydia wants to pursue being a dermatologist, and peer pressure can contribute to body image issues such as low self-esteem, body dysmorphia, and eating disorders. Young people may feel pressure to conform to certain beauty standards, which can lead to excessive focus on skin appearance and dissatisfaction with perceived imperfections. Having knowledge on peer pressure and its negative effects on mental health will allow her to have better insight when dealing with such patients. Natalia plans on becoming an orthodontist, and peer pressure can significantly influence how young people perceive themselves, especially regarding physical appearance. Adolescents undergoing orthodontic treatment may experience self-consciousness, anxiety, or low self-esteem due to concerns about how braces or other orthodontic appliances affect their appearance. Having knowledge on peer pressure and its negative effects on mental health will allow her to empathize with such patients and help them move forward with their treatment. Thank you so much for listening.